Hey, what's up YouTube? This is We All Juggle Knives, and welcome to my video review of the Cold Steel Black Bear Bowie Machete. A very affordable machete like all of Cold Steel's. You see it has a polypropylene handle with a lanyard hole and a crossguard. The blade itself is 1055 mid-carbon steel. It is 12 inches long. This is made in South Africa like all of Cold Steel's machetes, I do believe. It comes quite sharp, extremely pointed, and the blade shape kind of flares out as well. Kind of reminds me of the Ontario Marine Raider, but of course this is a machete, not a knife. The primary difference being, well, machetes tend to be slimmer than a knife. They tend to not, the steel is not as hardened as on many knives. Machetes tend to be more flexible. You can bend the blade without snapping it, usually. And machetes are less expensive. The reason they're not as hardened is because they want it to be really easy to sharpen if you're off in a jungle somewhere. Speaking of using a machete, machetes like this, like thin machetes, are mainly made for hacking through soft vegetation. This is the bush of machete testing. Don't worry about the bush. This thing grows really quickly. And also, I'm not trying to kill the whole bush here. I'm just chopping the periphery of it. I'm purposely not chopping too deeply into it because it's the backstop for my throwing alley, as it were. But this shows why, this is Jason Voorhees' one of his favorite machetes, I would assume. But yeah, you can hack through soft vegetation. And usually, I mean, most people buying this are probably just getting it for coolness sake or just for basic yard work. I mean, most of my subscribers are in Europe or North America, so they're just in, a minute or two. That's what I cut with it. Works fine as a machete, but as I was saying, most of my subscribers are not in a jungle, so probably just for yard work. Here it is, splitting some wood. Now, me personally, I don't really use a fairly thin machete for splitting. That little piece had a knot, so if it has a knot in it, that's what you'll have to do. Be careful. But I prefer to use a hatchet or a much thicker, heavier machete. But, we're reviewing this, and I wanted to show that if you were stuck somewhere with only this, yeah, you could split some wood. You would have to cherry pick the wood. Nothing too hard, and nothing with too many knots in it, but you could get it done. Alright, it is much the same story with making shavings. Kind of a pain to make shavings with such a large blade, it's just unwieldy. I know I prefer a much shorter blade, but again, if for some reason you only had this, you could make some shavings for your fire. Here I am using the machete to shape and carve a piece of wood. I just happened to see this piece of scrap wood and I noticed it looks very vaguely like a knife. So what I'm going to do is carve it into a little wooden training knife. Normally I would use a small hatchet for this task, but I wanted to try out the machete more, and I wanted to show that if you were out in the field somewhere and you needed to shape a piece of wood, like for example, like a replacement handle for a tomahawk or something, you can carve with this machete. Right, so there it is. Now I'm going to finish the project with a much smaller knife because the fine details, that would be really annoying to do with a foot-long blade. But nonetheless, machete is useful for small basic carving tasks like that. I also whaled this machete into a log for no other reason than to see if it would F up the edge, because I have seen some videos where marbles machetes, for example, someone did this and it just dented and rolled the edge horribly. So I wanted to see if it would hold up. And to make a long story short, yes, it did hold up. It did not dent or roll the edge. So that's just a good thing to know. Here is the sheath of the machete. It is called Core X. Core X is Cold Steel's version of Cordura. As you saw, it has a belt loop, has a retaining strap with a snap closure. Yeah, it's basically nylon reinforced tip, and it does hold it in. It'll slide like a little bit as you see, but then it'll stay. Right, so just a bare bones machete sheath. You know, that's a sheath that you get. Final conclusions, after doing a lot of things with this machete, I love the price. I love the shape of the blade. As I said, the machete in general is just a very useful, practical, utilitarian category of type of blade. What could you use this for? Just your basic yard work. Like I said, slicing through soft vegetation. If you're going on a long trail, you would want a longer machete, but this has the advantage of being compact. It could also be used as a stand-in for a large knife. If you're on a really tight budget, you know, maybe you want an Essie Hunglis, but it's just not in the budget. Many people will probably buy this for that purpose. Now, as I said, it's not the equal of a large knife, but if you use it with common sense within its limitations, your skills can certainly compensate to a degree. You could use it for basic camp tasks. A lot of people will also use it, or should I say purchase it, as a weapon. Not necessarily to use, but just, you know, your typical thing that you would see on The Walking Dead, if you just want to, for coolness sake. Or it could be used as a weapon in some extreme situation. Sometimes I get preppers that say, you know, I have 50 guns. I need something cheap for hand-to-hand. All right, well, this will definitely deanimate. I mean, it's like a... You can thrust like a short sword with it. Slash as well. So, flexible, fairly durable, many uses, very reasonable price. I will include the Amazon links if you want to pick one up. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.